Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Well, this evening, thank you, Paul. This evening, I think that Shabbat has many different kind of modes, many different ways that we kind of enter into this day as the sun sets, as the day comes about. And this Shabbat, my invitation for us is simply to rest. I think that it is remarkable that we can go through an entire week, we can make our way through an entire 7 days and not ever just stop and breathe, rest. So my invitation for us this Shabbat is to do exactly that. Now, I'll mention just a tiny bit of housekeeping before we get started in earnest, and that is, first of all, that I want to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone who is here in our sanctuary, and Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's joining us online. Everyone who is with us on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you are on those platforms right now, I invite you to hop down to the chat and just say Shabbat Shalom. Wish everyone a restful end of our week. And if you are on one of those platforms, I want to mention that there's also a slightly higher stream available at tilb.org, and there's a live stream button at the top of that website. The reason I mention that is twofold. One is that the stream is slightly higher quality. The other is later on, when we get to our healing prayer and our prayer for mourning, our mourner's Kaddish, if you offer names of those you're thinking of in the chat, on TILB, we'll be able to offer those names out loud as well. Well, for everyone who is here, and it's not necessary for those who are at home to wear a mask, but for us who are here in our sanctuary, as per Los Angeles County health guidelines, and as recently as well, California state guidelines additionally, we are asking that everyone remain masked throughout the service. Now, at the same time, I imagine many are noticing that I am not wearing a mask. I very recently took a COVID test and tested negative. And so when I am up on the bima and I'm not near other people, I will be taking my mask off. The first 2 rows are cleared as an additional precaution as well. Well, all of us have different ways that we are going to enter into this holiday. All of us have different ways that we are going to simply breathe and relax and let down a little bit. And one of them, my hope, is brought in with music. This evening we have the gift of David York's music, of leading together, of us leading together this service, and David bringing us into this evening with beautiful music. And so too did the Chassids from just a few hundred years ago. In Jewish history, that's not a lot of time, right? They brought a number of different inventions to our practice. And one of them was they said, let's not focus too much on the words of our experience. That words do bring us into a holy space. They help us think meaningfully, and at the same time, they're not the only way to transform an evening, not the only way to have a holy experience. And so this evening, we are going to draw from their inspiration and start with a prayer that has no words. If you know this melody, I invite you to sing along. If you don't, you'll get it after a little bit. I'll mention one other thing from this. We have a history of melodies that come down the generations, and sometimes that history is a little foggy. In fact, there are some melodies that when you go to the history books and you open it up, it says, Mi Sinai. It says, the melody comes all the way from Sinai. Now, it is very unlikely that a melody survived that many thousands of years. But the melody that we are about to sing is the Breslauer Nigun from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Someone just far enough that we can allow him to We can elevate him with stories and lore, apocrypha, and just near enough in history that it is possible that he sang this melody too. Yai lai 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 yai lai la lai yai lai la lai 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 ya lai 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 yai lai la lai yai lai la lai 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 lai. Let's try that first part together. Yai lai 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 yai lai la lai. It sounds beautiful. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 yai lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Next part goes like this. Yai lai ya lai 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 yai lai la lai. Ya lai 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 yai lai lai la lai. Ya lai 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 yai lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Back to the beginning. Ya lai 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 yai lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 yai lai la lai. Yai lai la lai 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 lai. Now, melodies, for sure, are passed down from one generation to the next. They definitely do make their way from one people and one community to the next. But words, we know for certain, have passed down. Not just 100 years, not just 1,000 years, but thousands of years. And so that same Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav would have known these same words. And when we offer the words Hine Matov, how good it is that we might be together with people that we feel as siblings with, people that we feel so close to. We sit here not just with those that we are joined in the sanctuary with, not just with those who are joining us online and around the world in communities that might share this same melody, certainly the same holiday, but with everyone who has offered these words that come from our Bible over the many generations. So I invite us together to sing these words, Hine Matov. How good it is that we are in such good company, that we are together singing these words on page 10. Hine Matov Manayim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. 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 forgot to mention one other thing, which is that you may have noticed that I am by myself this evening, and so I need some help. I can almost get to the notes. I tell people sometimes that I sing like a guitar player. I can get to the notes, but I don't know whether it sounds so good. But it sounds so much more beautiful when we sing together. And so perhaps more this evening than any other, I need your help. Let's sing together. That sounded beautiful. And let's continue to bring our voices together in song. We have on our next prayer the image of a bride here to celebrate with us on her wedding day, as we know that Shabbat, like us joining together with God, like the Jewish people joining together with the day of rest, we are celebrating a union. And just like we might sing at a celebration of a couple under the chuppah, so too do we sing this evening, welcoming in Shabbat. Now, not right at this moment, but as we get to that last verse, we'll sing the first, the fifth, and the ninth verse of Lecha Dodi. At that last verse, again, not yet, but when we get there, we'll rise and turn to the door through which we entered our sanctuary, a custom of welcoming Shabbat as if she were here, joining us on her wedding day. Well, let's sing together on page 20 of our prayer books. La 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela, la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala. Ya la 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 la, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha ki ishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo L'shem ol tiferet v'litila Yai lai lai Ya la 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 lecha dodi Ya la 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 likrat kala Ya la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela Hitoreri Ki ba'orech Kumi uri Shir daberi Kevod Adonai Alayich nigla Yai lai lai Ya la 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 lecha dodi Ya la 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 likrat kala Ya la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom Ateret bala Gam besimcha sochola toch emunei am segula bo ichala yai lai lai yalla la la lai lecha dodi yalla la la lai likrat kala yalla la la lai penei Shabbat nekabela. We have many things that we are celebrating this Shabbat, not just the end of the week, not just the coming together of community, but a special moment in a young person's life as he emerges as an adult in our community. So I'd like to call up Xander and the rest of the immediate family crew to come on up and help us light the candles. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Okay, so once you reach out to light the candles, no matter what happens after that, that moment is Shabbat. And it's because it's not the candles themselves that actually make this moment Shabbat. It's us stopping, singing a little bit, and taking a moment to recognize that this brightness, it's not the candle, actually. I mean, I firmly believe that Shabbat candles are a little bit brighter than they should be, right? There's something almost supernatural happening. And that's because we feel a brightness in this moment. Today, we get to celebrate and rest, enjoy this holiday, and today, we celebrate a really important moment in your life, Xander. So lights or no lights, we have this day of Shabbat. There's an expression, a Yiddish kaf, which is a Jewish mind that wants to just ask questions, and that is a few things that I enjoy more. Well, we now turn to each other, knowing that this experience of Shabbat is quite simply not the same unless we join together on it. And so we continue with the words of Baruch Hu on page 28, as one community, turning to each other and saying, this evening of Shabbat is celebrated as a community with one another. I invite us to turn to page 28, and please rise in body or in spirit. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, ba lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. We continue on page 30, calling out the beauty of the lights of this evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach sha'arim, uvitvuna meshane itim, umachalif et hazmani, umisader et hakochavim, b'mishmeroteim berakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, Umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzivaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, Tamid yimloch alenu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. It can be easy to think that there is inspiration, and certainly artists talk about inspiration coming and going. As with many things in our world, it seems like this resource might be finite. But our ancestors remind us that there is a wellspring to draw from in our tradition that continues to teach and give same words that for thousands of years have inspired new ideas and questions, new learning and study. And so we bless the endlessness of this wellspring with this next prayer. Ahavat olam, and never-ending love that has been offered to our community. We continue on page 32. Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha avta, Amcha avta. Mishpatim, otanu limadeta, otanu limadeta. Al keit Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, uvkumeinu nasiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem negei yamam v'layla. continue on page 34. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Ba'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. To continue us in our Shema prayer, I'd like to call up Xander. As we continue with our Via Hafta and the rest of the congregation, I'd like to invite to please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובלשותך ובקומך, ושנותם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והקדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Yasher Koach. To Xander, the words that we say when somebody does such an excellent and amazing job, we say, go forward with the same strength that you led that particular prayer. Yasher Koach, Xander. Way to go. By the way, I didn't even start the Yasher Koach. It was like from everyone saying like, wow, that was pretty impressive. So, way to go. Well, we continue our service now with a melody, a song that came out of the mouths of the Israelites after wandering through the desert for 40 years. Not for nothing on page 40 of our prayer books. Yai lai lai la lai la lai la lai la lai, yai lai lai la lai la lai la lai, yai lai lai la lai la lai la lai la lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai. Mi chamo Chava Elim Adonai Mikamocha Ne'etar Bakodai Nora Tehilot Osei Pele Nora Tehilot Osei Pele Malachutecha Ruvanecha Bokei Yam Moshe Miriam Ze'elianu Ve'amru Ze'elianu Ve'ameru Adonai Imo Le'olam Ba'ad Adonai Imo Le'olam Ba'ad Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai La Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai La Lai Lai. Let's do that one more time. Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai La Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai 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 La Lai La Lai La Lai La Lai 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 We get a little bit of that spirit, a little bit of that ruach that the Israelites might have had when coming through the desert on their way to a place of promise, on their way to that promised land. We continue this evening also calling out the beauty and comfort of this space. The space that we have created simply by our hearts, by our voices. We have made a sanctuary of this space. And so we offer the words Hashkivenu. You'll find them on page 42 of our prayer books. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom V'hamidenu Malkeinu L'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Ufros aleinu Sukat Shlomecha Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. 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 Well, Shabbat is a time of celebration, a time of fun, a time to simply stop working and just enjoy, and this next prayer was set there to remind us of that. And so I think it is very appropriate that there is a Temple Israel tradition of offering up our hands a little bit during the one moment of this prayer where we have a grammatical structure that doesn't exist in English, but it exists in Hebrew, the first letter and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet that brings two words together. It is the word et. Thank you. Not to be confused with the Hebrew word for pen. It is the Hebrew word et. Now, I want to practice really fast. So on the count of three, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to say if anybody over here happens to stand all the way up instead of just lifting up their hands, that's okay too. So just saying out loud, and I'm seeing everyone at home too. So let's join together on the count of three. I'm going to say et. let's all just practice real fast. 1, 2, 3, et. All right, we are ready for Vishamru, page 44. Let's sing together about the fun, the joy of this holiday. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat. We always miss that one. Ledorotam beritolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam beritolam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam beritolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam beritolam. Ubayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam beritolam. High fives are optional. High fives are optional. Well, we have come to the center of our service, and even still we ask that we might pray. The rabbis say, what do we do before we pray? We pray. It takes a lot of work to bring ourselves into the right moment of Shabbat. And I don't know if you have the same experience, but for me, it's often right afterwards that I go, I felt like I was just, the world was kind of a little bit lighter in that moment. Well, we have all of these different prayers to bring us to that space where we don't have the weight of the world any longer on our shoulders. We do want to be inspired to make this world a better place. But on Shabbat, the hope is that that weight feels a little bit lighter. And prayer, hopefully, lets us be in that space. And so, this evening, as we enter this center of our service, we begin with one more prayer just to bring us a little bit closer before we start it in earnest. So I invite us to join together with the words on page 46 to get a little bit closer to that center of our prayer. Invite us as well to rise in body or in spirit. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agitehi latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Behanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Abot B'imahot, U'mivi Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'ahava, Melech Chozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah. Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Ata, Rab Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Berofei Cholim, Tir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Bichamocha Rod Umido Melach Melech Meimit Umechaye Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman Atal HaChayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yehalelucha Selah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. And so we ask God, fill our eyes with seeing, fill our minds with knowing, and let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see that wherever we gaze, the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay, touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place? And we didn't know it. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue silently, either using words that we might find on the pages to follow, or other words that we might find in our hearts. When we've finished with our prayer, I invite us to be seated. We'll join back together again on page 62. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki atahu melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Tasim Leolam. Beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol eit ubechol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim leolam, Tasim leolam. Well, there's a lot of debate about exactly how so much of modern intellectual history was affected by Jews. If you take a look, often, major intellectual historians will take a look at all of the different major thinkers of the 19th. We're going to throw the 19th in there in the 20th century. And so many of them are Jewish. You have Marx, you have Einstein. If we were in a strictly academic session and setting, I would have to say Joyce, but then Kafka, right? That we have all of these major figures, and there's a lot of debate about what exactly allowed them to be so prominent. And one of the theories, is that Jews were kind of 1 foot in Western society and 1 foot out of Western society. And when they looked at the problems that were taking place in Berlin and in Vienna, these different cities that were intellectual capitals, they had a different perspective to offer than anyone else because they had come from a different culture, essentially, a different intellectual history, right? Much in the same way that Brits can come to the United States and have full access of the English language and say, the Beatles are pretty great. And we have to say, yeah, they are pretty good. They had a different perspective. And among these great thinkers, of course, is Sigmund Freud. I don't think anyone could make a list of the major thinkers of the 19th and 20th centuries and not include that great thinker. Well, if we were to look at Freud's psychoanalysis, and we could spend all night talking about Freud, right? All of it, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. We could talk about Freud. But one of the major things that he offered to us is the idea of psychoanalysis. The idea of analyzing our own mind to the point where we deeply examine the most fundamental parts of our constructed mind. Not our brain, not the hard wires, not the chemistry and the electricity and all of that, but our mind, the way that our self has been put together. And if we were to go to those core parts of ourselves, we would find at its core a family structure. Now, I don't know if for any of you this was quite as haunting, but every year when I get to the story of Jacob and Esau and the blessing, I am haunted by Isaac's response to Esau. And Esau's words, "Father, do you have a blessing for me too?" We get no answer. We understand that the answer essentially is no. And we end up with two warring peoples. Well, we continue with our story, and we have Jacob turning to his children and having the same favoritism. And again, it leads to conflict. We have the brothers selling Joseph into slavery. And that is conflict after conflict after conflict until we get to this week. This week, we have Joseph bring his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, in front of Jacob, which is interesting enough, given that it's not Joseph that's offering this blessing. And it actually even says in the Torah, Jacob says, "These children are mine." Well, I think that he's learned something. We've gotten to the end of the book of Genesis. Something is changing, and Jacob is ready to change it. And so he says, I've learned. I want to bless these children. And he takes both of his hands and he places them on both children. And he offers each one a blessing. Now today, when we bless our children, we say, may you be like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, right? And then we turn to our children as well and we say, may you be like, does anybody know this? Rabbi Levick. Ephraim and Manasseh. There's a shift. There's a change. And whereas the entire book of Genesis has all of this conflict, we can almost assume that there's actually peace after that. Jacob has suddenly learned that these relationships, these family relationships, are really important. And that if he wants to start making this world a better place broadly, well, he needs to start with home. And so, Freud or Genesis, we learn that to change our world does take real action out in the streets, but it also takes small action at home. All the way down to a simple blessing for every single one of our kids. Shabbat Shalom. We continue now with that same blessing for our extended families, our wider circle as we have members of our community who are in need of healing. And so as we think of those in need of healing, before we offer this traditional blessing, this traditional prayer, I first would like to invite anyone who's joining us online at tilb.org to place the name of those that they are thinking of in the chat online. Again, we'll be able to offer, I will be able to see the names of those you offer on tilb.org. Unfortunately, I will not be able to see on Facebook and on YouTube. And I want to note something else as well. And that is, I want to invite us to take a look at our pamphlet this evening. We've taken the names of everyone in our community who is in need of healing and placed them here so that we can see who is here. If there's anyone that you know or that you are, anyone that you are surprised to see on here, I invite you to reach out to them. One of the ways that we offer healing is with community, with one another. And so this evening we will offer these names, not only those who are in our pamphlet, but I'm going to share those who have recently joined our Misha Berach list, our list of those in need of healing. And in just a moment as well, I'm going to invite us to share the names aloud of anyone that we are thinking of here in this sanctuary. And so together, we are thinking of those who have recently been added to our list of healing, those who are recently in need of healing. So we think together of Steve Kiles and Chuck Leff and Robin Schaefer, as well as Leon Blanche and Tova Corman and Mahaba Mahiri. We additionally think of Manolo Baskewicz, Jacob Hanover, Mikhail Dufour, Linda Page, and Daryl Campbell. Additionally, if there's anyone who you are thinking of, for anyone who's here in our sanctuary, I invite you to share their name aloud as my eyes pass across our room. We think of all of these people and everyone who is in need of healing as we offer the words that can be found on page 253. Page 253 of our prayer books as we offer these words of healing. Those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach Mekor habracha le'avoteinu. May the source of strength who bless the wounds before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, We continue now with the words of Aleinu on page 282 of our prayer books. I'd like to invite us to please rise in body or in spirit. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, Lated Gidula Liotzer Breshit Shelo Asanu Kigoye Haratzot Velo Samanu Kamishbechot Adama Shelo Sam Chelkeinu Kahem Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam Vanachnu Korim Umishtachabim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu V'ne'emar V'haya Adonai L'melech al kol ha'aretz V'yom hahu V'yom hahu Yeh Adonai echad U'shemo U'shemo echad. Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. If you are joining us online, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those you are thinking of in the chat. As together, we think of those in our community who have suffered a recent loss and are observing Shloshim. So our hearts go out to those near to Mark Hardy as we think of Heidi and Maxine and Madeline, Jesse and Kevin. We think of those near to Marcel Solomon. We think of Carol Beckerman. Additionally, we mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Edna Alban, Gabrielle Barr, Emil Butler, Miriam Chodosh, Ann Cohen, Josiah Darlin, Kathy Dixon Davis, Rebecca Eden, Joseph Iser, Dorothy Faddick, Norm Pfeiffer, Donald Fike, Arthur Gardner, Harold Goodman, Bronna Greenberg, Cherry Gundry, Zev Hausnecht, David Hochstadt, Mark Janis, Norman Caddison, Irving Komsky, Rose Levine, Ying Lim, Bella Lutsky, Irene Mendel, Lil Narens, Ted Phillips, Michael Rice, Louis Richmond, Herbert Summer, David Swit, Boris Tsipkis, Samuel Wilkowski, and Zumbel Yoje. If you are thinking of someone in particular this Shabbat, if you'd like to share their name aloud, I'd like to invite you to do so as my eyes pass across our sanctuary. Together we are thinking as well of Mary Moore and Bill Hartzler, Miriam Uter-Kaddish, Mary Moore, Arthur Schneider, and Doris Kagan. I'd like to invite all of us to rise together in love and in solidarity as we offer the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 294 of our prayer books. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirtei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olmei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudisha barichu, le'ehla min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. V'aseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, amen. I invite us to please be seated. We have some announcements, many different things that are taking place in our community. And so I'll just pick a random board member who might have had a celebration recently to okay. Jill, come on up. Takes just a minute.
Lots of announcements, as there are with every week, but thank you. I'm so glad that I'm here for you tonight, Sander. It's going to be an exciting day tomorrow. If anything like last week has to give a clue. So for this next week, Saturday morning, begin with the Torah study. It is both in person and on Zoom, and class begins at 8:45, led by Rabbi Fox. Tomorrow's Shabbat service begins at 10:30, and we'll celebrate the bar mitzvah of Xander Loving. So Mazel Tov. Our Joys of Jewish Learning program has many offerings this week, so let's see if there may be something of interest. On Monday, we offer at 9:45 the New Testament study from a Jewish perspective. On Wednesday morning at 9:45, we have our Musar study group. Also, Wednesday morning at 11, we have the Social Justice Book Group discussing the book Ariel Sampson, Freelance Rabbi by Maud Nashata. On Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, we're offering, and is this the third class, Rabbi? Making Ourselves at Home with Rabbi Fox. First two were great. Our Tanakh study also meets every Thursday at 10:15. If you'd like to participate, contact Martine Korach. Other programs, Men's Minyan is on Tuesday mornings at 9:30. Contact Alan Lillian if you're interested. On Thursdays at 7:30, we have the Meditative Morning Minyan with Bill Shafton. For those of you who haven't gone at least once, you owe it to yourselves. It's a wonderful way to start the day. If you ever have a question about how to attend one of our classes and programs, look for our emails or call the temple. Our staff is happy to help you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Jill. And if we're mentioning Bill Shafton's Thursday morning program, I'll put a plug in for Kol HaShabbat tomorrow night as well. As we celebrate the conclusion of the book of Genesis and make our way into the book of Exodus, there will be many people in this room will be a part of the music of that evening, and there will be original poetry as well as a lot of festivities to be had as well. We have in our service the invitation to place all of these different things together that we've been reminding ourselves of. All the different things that we've learned and talked about in the sacred words that have been drawn out of our Bible and placed in our prayer book. One after the other are reminders of ways to live a meaningful life. And Aleinu, some people have said, is an opportunity to place them on us. Literally, Aleinu, it is on us. And the hope, of course, is in living all of these different values that we live a life of fullness, a life of peace, a life of shalom or shalem. And so I invite us to sing about that completeness, sing about that peace that comes on Shabbat, that comes from affirming all of the different values, all the different beliefs that we have as a community. And so I'd like to invite us to turn to page 294, or you might know the words already, the words Oseh Shalom. Let's sing together. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru, Amen. Yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, yai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Oseh Shalom Bimroma, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'imru, Amen. We take the sweetness of this day and we place it right there in our cup. So Xander, I'd like to invite you to come on back up, and you can bring the immediate crew again. Come on up, you guys. And let's bless this day with a bit of sweetness, a bit of Kiddush. Yeah, come on up. All right, Xander, go ahead. And I promised Xander that we would all help him with this. So I invite us to join together. Just the one-liner. Let's do it. You ready? I don't know. And then we continue our celebration knowing that Shabbat is something that feeds our souls. We reflect that by feeding our stomachs. It's a Jewish gathering. So I invite us to say the blessing over our motzi this evening. It's a very cute motzi. In Kemach and Torah. There's no bread, there's no Torah, although Rabbi Loving, I don't know what that says about this particular challah.
That we have such Torah in our hearts that we don't need a yud challah tonight.
We have such Torah in our hearts that we don't need a challah in our hearts. A beautiful teaching. Yes. Well, let's offer the blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. B'tei avon. Shabbat shalom, everyone, and mazel tov.